Hi, Sociology Files subscribers. I hope you're learning from our video, so keep watching.
All right, let's dive in. Today we are talking about a field that is all about you, me, and literally everyone we know. We're talking about sociology. Think of it as the science of us, why we connect with each other, why we fight, and what all those invisible rules are that govern everything from a simple handshake to massive global movements. Have you ever just stopped and really thought about it? Why do we act the way we do when we're in a group? What is it that holds our society together? Or, for that matter, what tears it apart? These are the huge, fascinating questions that sociology isn't afraid to tackle head-on.
So, to really get it, let's just break the word down. Socius is Latin for companion, and logi is from the Greek for the study of. So, at its very core, sociology is the study of companionship. And this is really important because it's where it splits off from a field like, say, psychology. A psychologist might look inward at an individual's mind, but a sociologist, they look outward at how we all behave together as a group.
And it turns out there isn't just one simple definition for this field. Some people see it as the study of society as this huge single thing. Others prefer to focus on smaller social groups. Some sociologists, they zoom right in on our day-to-day interactions, while others are analyzing these massive social institutions like the government or the economy. And all this variety, it just shows you how rich and how big the field really is. Okay, so with all these different ways of looking at things, how on earth do sociologists make sense of it all? Well, they use this really powerful idea, perspectives. The best way to think about them is as different lenses you can use to look at the exact same world. And that quote really gets to the heart of it. There's no single right way to view society. Instead, what sociology gives you is a whole toolkit of different lenses, and each one helps you see something new, something important, that the other lenses might have missed completely. To make this even easier, we can basically sort all of these different lenses into two main piles. You've got the big picture view, and you've got the close-up. In sociology, we call these the macro and micro perspectives. Let's see how that works. So, the macro perspective, that's like being in a helicopter. It's the high-altitude, holistic view, looking down at the giant structures of society. Things like the economy, the political system, social class. The micro perspective, on the other hand, well, that's the ground-level view. It's all about getting up close and personal, looking at those small-scale, face-to-face interactions between people. Let's start with a classic macro theory, functionalism. Functionalists see society as this really complex system, kind of like a living body. Every part of it, the family, schools, the economy, each one has a specific job to do, and they all have to work together to keep the whole thing stable and healthy. The main thing for functionalists is how society keeps itself stable and ordered. They're obsessed with how all the different parts depend on each other. Think about it. Schools aren't just there to teach kids how to read. They also function to prepare a skilled workforce for the economy. And the economy, in turn, funds those schools through taxes. See? It's all about that interdependence keeping the whole system in balance. Now, let's switch lenses. We're going from the helicopter right down to the ground with something called symbolic interactionism. This is a micro-theory, so it couldn't care less about giant structures. It's fascinated by the tiny details of how we use symbols to create meaning. A simple handshake isn't just two hands touching, right? It's a symbol of agreement or trust or just saying hello. This theory unpacks all those small but incredibly powerful interactions that make up our social lives. And what's just incredible is that none of these ideas just appeared out of thin air. Every single perspective, functionalism, symbolic interactionism, and all the others we don't have time to get into, is built on the work of generations of thinkers. The history here is just immense. Honestly, we're barely scratching the surface. But these thinkers, they weren't just making things up in a quiet room. They were responding directly to a world that was changing faster than ever before. Which, of course, brings up a pretty big question. Where did this field even come from? For most of human history, there was no such thing as sociology. So why, all of a sudden, in the 18th and 19th centuries, did we need a whole new set of lenses just to understand our own world? Well, the answer lies in a series of huge, world-changing historical events. It kind of starts with the Renaissance, which put the focus back on the human experience. Then came the Enlightenment, which said, hey, we can use science and reason to understand the world, not just old traditions. And happening right alongside all of that, the agricultural and industrial revolutions completely upended daily life for millions of people. The Industrial Revolution was really the final push. It was fueled by all this new machinery, growing wealth, and a huge boom in agriculture. And the result was that millions of people were basically torn away from their rural lives and crammed into these huge, crowded, anonymous cities. This created all sorts of new social problems that nobody had really seen before: poverty, crime, alienation, all on a massive scale. So, at the end of the day, the old ways of understanding the world, based on religion and tradition, they just weren't cutting it anymore. That traditional world was gone. In its place was this new modern industrial society, and people desperately needed a new science, a science of society to make sense of it all. And that science was sociology. So, as we wrap this up, I want to leave you with a question to chew on. When you look at the world around you, your own family, your job, the news, which lens seems to fit best? Is it the big picture, helicopter view of the macro perspective? Or is it that detailed ground level view of the micro perspective? Which one do you think best explains the society you see today?